Okay, so what we're doing today is we're going to change upper and lower radiator hoses. The upper one looks alright on this, but the lower one definitely needs to be changed. We're also going to do the serpentine belt and water temperature sensor, which is right here and to the left of the thermostat housing. And speaking of thermostat housing, I'm going to go ahead and replace the thermostat too. I got the serpentine belt off, so that's one less thing to have to fool with this truck. So down here I've already collected my water into a tote, and hopefully I find out that that's reusable antifreeze. At least it didn't look like there's any oil in it. But on your radiator you have a Petcock valve that's over here on the passenger side of the radiator. In this case my valve was broke off, so I had to just pull the pipe off and do it that way, which it actually wasn't too bad, but anyhow. You guys are definitely going to stick around because there's going to be all kinds of fun repair work to do on this truck. But today we're just going to handle the hoses, temperature sensor, and thermostat. Okay, so while you're draining your water, you also want to loosen the cap on your overfill tank so that it'll all drain out it faster. We're going to go ahead and take off the upper radiator hose here. Depending on what you've got, there's two different hoses that can go on here. There's a wraparound that's diverted around the serpentine belt. Then there's this one here that goes through it. While that's more simpler, if you have to change your serpentine belt, you got to take off the upper radiator hose too. So I've got a hose that goes around the serpentine belt because, you know, stuff happens that you have to take that off or just change it, and having to deal with the upper radiator hose is a pain to have to pull at the serpentine belt. So here's a fix for that. I'll be there in a minute. Thank you. There we go. There's the upper hose. Okay, so I've also removed the serpentine belt as well. And then here's that hose I was telling you about. There's even a place, an alternator bracket for the hose to fit properly. And now that's all out of the way. So I'm going to try to get the camera in here and show actually replacing the thermostat. You're going to need an 8mm socket. So let's get to that. So let's get the thermostat. Now the thermostat housing. That is the longest bolt. At least it came off nice and easy. Okay, next let's get the seal out of there. I know it's really, really tough to see, and I do apologize. while. And this could take a little bit of effort to get out. Ah, there we go. And remember guys, it's gonna go spring down. Okay, so what I've done here is I've taken a deep well socket and put it over the factory temperature sensor. And try and get that booger out. Oh yeah, that's way easier than trying to use a wrench like I did a second ago. Alright. So, I mean, if you are careful with it and work it in there, it goes in there just fine. It's not going to hurt it. So there's the old one. It's corroded, nasty looking. I hope that's why my gauge on the dash doesn't work. But moreover, I hope when I try this other one it does make it work. So I was reading in the forums how you need to use the Ford one, not an aftermarket one. No, there's the original, there's the aftermarket, they're new or whatever, but it doesn't have a gray plug like a lot of other people talk about. I'm hoping since it's a black plug, maybe it'll work. Maybe it'll be like the CPS. Yes, maybe it'll be like the CPS sensors, and black plugs are the ones you're supposed to want. Then also make sure that little gormet or whatever you want to call that, little rubber piece, lines back up on the connector because it came off of mine. And anyway, just stick that on back down in there. Hopefully without getting any crud down in there. And again, here comes the deep well socket. And just be careful with sticking that back on there, that you're actually getting it on the nut, and not to damage the actual electrical connector, because I mean it's not going to, it usually won't just slip on just super easy, but if you just finagle it just a little without using any force, you'll get it. And there we go. We got the water temperature sensor all installed there. Now we'll clean up the thermostat housing and get the new thermostat installed. Okay, so now I'm just going to put in the stock 192 degree thermostat. I understand the controversy and all that, and I just don't care at this point. you're supposed to get better fuel mileage and such out of them if you run a 205-degree thermostat. Not arguing with all that, but that's not what I did. So as before, make sure the orientation is correct. Spring needs to go down. Just like that. And you also want to make sure to have your little rubber gasket that goes with it. You usually will have to order this separately. They usually do not come with the thermostat. Just make sure that's all in there nice and neat. I did somewhat clean this housing up. So you'll install your outlet cover. After looking at the bolts, I wasn't too disgusted with them, so I'm just going to reuse them this time around and hope they don't get me in trouble later on down the road. We'll go ahead and install the hose. You can see right here that there's actually a place in the alternator bracket for this hose to be routed to. So you just go ahead and connect it back up to the radiator. Tighten up your hose clamps, and there you go. I do apologize about not showing the lower radiator hose installation and removal, but I wasn't going to get a very good camera angle for that. So alright, so now you can see a lot better since it's the next day and sun's out. But anyway, got the thermostat back in there. Got a brand new hose that goes around rather than through the serpentine belt. New serpentine belt and water temperature sensor down there. Another thing I had to do to this truck was breather box had a crack in it, and it also wasn't sealing tight. You could push the box around, so I just took some RTV and sealed it up, because when it's time to, it's got a pretty much new filter on it, so when it's time to change the filter again, I'm just gonna go to a regular canister filter. I can't remember what the part number is, but that's what around the rest of my truck. This thing also has a super awesome power steering pump leak. I'm hoping it's just a cap and I can replace that. And get down here to the bottom, and you can see I put in a new lower radiator hose. Alright, so the temperature sensor that I bought, just like what I'd read and other people were saying in their YouTube videos, that you're going to have to just suck it up and buy the Motorcraft brand one. There's the part number on there, SW5130. And there it is. So we're going to go ahead and pop the crappy one off of there and put the new one on, and then it shouldn't be too hard even with the belt and stuff on, I don't reckon. And while I'm at it, I'm going to go ahead and change the coolant recovery tank. I've put about 1,000 miles on the truck since doing the portions of this video about dealing with the belt and radiator hoses, and did notice here that the coolant recovery tank's cracked. It doesn't ever seem like it's got any pressure building up in it either, because when I shut the truck off, take the cap off, it doesn't make any noise, so I'd say it's all escaping from that crack there. So I found me that for 30 bucks shipped on eBay. This part here, I wound up getting this one for $40 at a local parts store that I can't stand, and it's not even AutoZone or Advanced Auto Parts, but I'm not going to bother saying the name of that store. They made me angry with the diesel van I had, and ever since then I hadn't went back until they opened this new store in my town. Anyway, enough of that. So I'm going to drain my water once again, and then we're going to tackle the bolts to get the coolant recovery tank off and get the water temperature sensor changed out. Okay, so taking this coolant recovery tank off, you got a hose here, and then you got a hose on the bottom. That needs to come off, which you won't be able to see that here. I guess it just goes without saying, drain your coolant system. Anyway, 5/16 or 8 millimeters for the bolts that hold this coolant recovery tank down. Trying to get a good position with the camera, so please do forgive me that it's not perfect or anything, but take the overflow hose out. And it looks like we just got 3 bolts that hold the coolant recovery tank down on this. Just got the one up here, and then there's 2 over here down on this side. I mean, they're down here. They shouldn't really be that bad. I didn't even need a socket wrench to free this one. Is still some water in there, so I'm gonna have to let out some more water. I was trying not to drain my entire coolant system, so let me get that drained real quick. So now I have all the water out of the coolant tank. Pull the coolant tank out so you can unhook the hose for it, which I didn't show unhooking this hose from the radiator, but I guess most of you guys could probably figure this one out. It's the smaller hose next to your lower radiator hose. I was starting to wonder where all the water was in my truck, because not much seemed to come out, but now there it all goes. It's kind of scared me there for just a second, because I was like, if that's all the water that's in there, I'm probably in a little bit of trouble. Anyway, now we got the old nasty tank taken out. And here goes in with the new tank. First thing you'd want to do, of course, is put your hose on it. And the best thing to do with these clamps is to try and get them in the same place that they've always been in on a used hose, to keep it from wearing more than it has to. So that's on there. I'm gonna go ahead and connect the hose back into the radiator. I don't need any more water to come out of it. Put our bolts back in. And I guess something else to mention before you go through all this, you would also want to make sure that you're not getting diesel fuel into your water. And I can't show you an example from this truck, because that's not what was happening, thank God. Because if you do, then that means that you likely need new injector cups. The problem will only get worse and destroy all the plastics on your truck while it's at it. Now over tightening these bolts, putting them back in. But if you get diesel into your coolant, it will destroy all the plastics that are on your cooling system. And you want to flush that contaminant out. That's not actually acceptable. So, and yeah, it'll run stuff like this coolant tank, maybe your hoses. The earlier that you catch that, the better. Don't let it go. You'll just be sorry. So I'm putting this third bolt here back in. So I mean, the most time that you would have in replacing a coolant recovery tank would just be replacing your fluids. Especially in my case, if you're just recovering your fluids and not using new fluids. So I mean, right now would be a good time for a coolant flush, but I think I'm going to wind up putting a water pump in it on down the line. I did see a little bit of coolant leaking from somewhere on the water pump, so, but that's a really tiny amount. So, at some point when things get going better, water pump will be next on my agenda, I think. Now the coolant recovery tank's been replaced, and then we can move on over to the water temperature sensor. Okay, so I hope you guys can see what I'm doing here. I can't remember what it looked like previously when I videoed this, but down here to the left, Now your thermostat housing, you can see that water temperature sensor connector. As you can already tell, I have disconnected it and pulled the wire aside. So there it is. You'll need a 3/4 inch deep well socket, or you can use a 3/4 inch, I'm sorry, boxed in wrench if you so desire. But the deep well socket works just fine. We'll remove our old replacement plug. And here's the one that I replaced it with. Take note that it still has a black end on it, but it's not a Motorcraft part. Got the one right here, not been opened yet. There we go, brand new one. And then we'll connect our wire back in. There we go. So I'll take the camera down there and show you guys what hose that you need to unhook to get the water coolant recovery tank out. Alright, so right there is your hose for your lower radiator, and there is your coolant recovery tank hose, which I mean is kind of obvious since that's the clamp that has been pulled back, right? You have to forgive me, I've got a terrible headache. Anyway, there we go. Now it's all hookificated back up. So, this thing's got a nasty power steering pump leak. Can't wait to get that all sorted out. One of these days, it at least works. Only one thing left to do. Get that beautiful coolant there back into there without making too much of a mess. And then we can go down the road and try it out. And while on the subject of diesel fuel and coolant, I don't know if you can tell on the camera or not, but in person you can definitely tell that this coolant might be a little on the dirty side, but there isn't any diesel in it. So, but before I do any towing, I'm going to do a full coolant system flush, so that'll be fun. Okay guys, sorry it's kind of dark, but anyway, so let's give this a try and see if the gauge works. It may start already reading because, well, the water was warm. It's probably about 100 or so degrees. So let's see what happens here. Oh, well, would you look at that? It's the first time I've seen that be below the C mark since I bought this truck. And so today, on May 31st, 2017, we're at 448,013 miles. Guys, I can't wait till we hit that 500,000 mark. Okay, so I know it's a little difficult to see, but I definitely have a temperature gauge. Yay! That just made my night. Because I was definitely going to get annoyed if 40 bucks wasn't going to make that gauge work. So, I mean, I can monitor everything else on this Edge Evolution, but not the water temperature. So there we go. Okay, sorry it's dark, but really, seeing's not the thing. Let's just see if we got any pressure in here. Oh yeah, there we go. That solved the problem. Awesome like a possum. So, earlier, with the older tank, if I did that, I'd barely hear anything, if I heard anything. Much bigger improvement. So, because in order for your cooling system to work on your vehicle, it must be under the proper pressure. And there's lots of other odds and ends that'll be doing to this. Enjoy watching. Love you guys. Thanks for watching my video. As always, praise the Lord and Savior Jesus Christ. May He richly bless and guide you all. And if you don't know Him, well, go read all about Him in the King James Bible or Authorized Version Bible, and meet Him. He'll save you from your sins, save you from hell. You get to serve Him forever in heaven and praise His holy name, the Lord Jesus Christ. Take care, you guys.